Hey guys, it's your girl Night Latte, and you are listening to this week's episode of Girl Chat. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, feel free to check me out right here on Spotify Podcasters. I'm also on Amazon Podcasters, iHeartRadio Podcasters, as well as Apple Podcasts. So, this episode was a long time coming, and I was debating whether or not to even go through with posting this episode. Because, guys, today we are going to talk about the new worst sexual experience I've ever had in my life, because I had sex with a corpse. And not a dead corpse, a live one. Don't get me wrong, I'm not into the whole dead body thing, but with the experience I had, they might as well have been dead. So, let's get into it. So this past summer, I got close with someone that I used to be cool with and sleep with like years ago. Like before I got married, before I had kids, back when I was called, I like to call that my thought era. So, back in my thought era, I used to sleep with this person, and we are going to call, we're going to call her Sybil, because this person has a lot of mental health things going on, a lot of personality things going on, and they weren't crazy per se, but they had the ability to, let's just say, be different people. So we have been friends for a while. We used to hook up pretty regularly when we used to go to school together, and just over the course of time, we just kind of drifted apart. We didn't live in the same area, so unlike college where we could hang out more frequently, we weren't able to hang out as much anymore. You know, I got married, had kids, they had like moved away, got married. They had got married, moved away. So I would say a couple months ago, we had became cool again through LinkedIn, which for those of you that don't know, LinkedIn is kind of like Facebook for professionals. So like jobs are posted there. You can add people from companies, post your resume. So it's a platform like that. So they had sent me a request, and we had chatted through the messaging function. So I'm like, oh my God, how have you been? How's everything? How's the wifey? She was telling me how she had got a divorce and was coming back to the area I lived in. Well, not the area I lived in, but the state that I lived in. And they were just, we were catching up. So I was like, oh, that's so great. Oh, here's my number. You should text me. Because I try to use the messaging function on LinkedIn to talk to like prospective employers, recruiters, not really for like personal stuff. So I'm like, oh, here's my number. Text me. So we text for about, I want to say about 4 months. We text for about 4 months. And then in July, we had been like talking, doing some flirting, reminiscing on our old, sexcapade times. And I'm like, oh, you should totally come see me. So they live like 4 hours away. So it wasn't a case where, you would just come for the day and go back. They're like, oh, if I come, I'm going to get like a hotel room and stay there overnight. So I'm like, okay, cool. We can hang out, go to dinner, you know. So they, just in the course of us talking, they had expressed that they were a virgin. Now, I know you're wondering, how'd y'all have sex if they were a virgin? So, of course, this person was a female. And for those of you that don't really know, you can be what's known as like a girl version and a guy version. So, of course, the traditional guy version is you never had your hymen broken. You've never been penetrated. You never had sex with a man at all. And then, there's girl virgins who've never had sex with a girl at all. Well, I told you, this person and I sleep together, and everyone knows I'm a girl. So they weren't a girl version, they were a guy version. but they didn't want to ever really sleep with an actual man. They just had never been penetrated. So me, kind of like how guys are excited about virgins, I get excited about virgins because who doesn't love being first, right? So we're talking, and I'm like, oh, well, if you want to explore that, I'll be more than happy to help you with that. So, yes, guys, my inner fuckboy was excited because what? New frontiers. I'm all about that. So, they told me that they've never been penetrated, and I'm all for it, and I'm all for helping because your girl's helpful. So, I'm like, okay, sure. Get the, you know, penile device and I'll help you. So we make plans for them to come the following week, and they're going to get a hotel close to where I live. We were going to hang out, maybe go to dinner, whatever. But then, the deflowering was going to happen. So Sybil and I are talking, and she makes plans to come, so she comes down here. And she comes to see me. She gets the hotel. She picked me up. We hung out. We went to dinner. We, got some weed. We got fried. The pool at the hotel wasn't working, so we didn't go swimming, but we smoked outside. We hung out in the room. We watched TV. And now kind of comes where the sexual, escapades happen. So they're not very aggressive, and I kind of knew that I was going to have to be like the guy in the situation and kind of make a move for them. So the first thing Sybil decides to do is Sybil's like, oh, I'm going to take a shower. And I'm like, me too. Like, we've been out all day. I'm sweaty. I think I went out earlier before she came and got me. So I'm like, cool, I'm being flirty, and I'm like, we should shower together. And her face, guys, kind of looked like it was just this dry stare. Like, it wasn't like a no, but it was just kind of like a okay. And I'm like, unless you don't want to, then I totally respect that. And she just was like, I mean, we can. It just was a lot of hesitation there. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to do all the work. Got it. So I decide that I'm gonna just do it. So I get naked, I go in the bathroom, turn the shower on, and she gets in first, and then I decide that I'm gonna get in too. Like, clearly, you're not gonna invite me in, so I'm just gonna go in myself. So I go in myself, and we're in there, and guys, we really were just washing up. Like, I'm not gonna hold you. We really both just washed up in the shower. Like, I'm thinking full on, makeout scene, maybe a little pre-warm up. Nothing. I literally just washed up in the shower. So I'm like, okay. I'm like trying to get her into it, soft, sensual. And I was getting nothing. It wasn't like an uninterested nothing. It was just kind of like a, they don't know what to do, so they're just going to stand there type of nothing. So it was one of those times where I really, really wished I was drunk, because I was like, if the something doesn't turn on, this is going to be really, really awkward. So we get out the shower, and we're sitting on the bed, we're talking, and I'm like, okay, cool. So let's get into it. We start kissing, start fondling, all that thing, and finally they they take the towel off, I take the towel off, and I have the, we're gonna call it like I'm gonna call it a strodo, which is like a strap-on and a dildo at the same time. You'll see why I called it that. So it was originally supposed to be a strap-on, but I don't know if it was cheap or low quality, or if my thighs and it just wasn't working out. But the strap had broke, like the harness part had broke completely. So we ended up having to use it as like a dildo. So we're doing that. I go down there, and I'm a girl. I lost my virginity, as you guys know from kind of hearing another episode on here. So I know kind of it's not exactly the most pleasant thing. Like, it doesn't feel amazing. So I decided that I'm going to, warm them up first. Here was the only problem with that. So, as you guys may or may not know, I'm small. I'm about 5'3", and I tend to not deal with women over like 5'5", because certain things that girls do with other girls kind of work out better physically if we're around the same height. Now, Sybil's probably like 5'10", and I'm 5'3". So yeah, tree climbing, not my greatest strength. So when I go down there to try to kind of maneuver that, they're not exactly thin. Don't be wrong. Sybil wasn't fat, and I'm not fat either. But I'm not sure if it was like the BMI build or the FUPA, but like, I couldn't get to it. I'm literally just going to call it that. I couldn't get to it. Like, I could not get to it at all. And by it, meaning, that very special place we have on the woman that kind of helps us get things started, I couldn't get to it, like, at all. It was like trying to dive for clams and like your oxygen running out right before you can touch the clam. That's literally like the best and worst metaphor I could give, because it was so awkward. And I'm like trying and trying, and I'm literally like, well, maybe you should open your legs more. And she did, but I still couldn't get to it. I'm not sure if it was like really, really small. Like, my theory looking back now was maybe it was just really, really, really small. And they had like a really big fupa. So it just wasn't helping. So when I couldn't get my mouth to it, I got my hands to it. And I was like, okay, maybe, a little stimulation will help the other thing kind of slide in easily. Guys, I now know what you men feel like when we don't say anything. It was so awkward, because like, I'm rubbing and I'm blowing and I'm rubbing and nothing. Guys, she made no sound. It was so quiet. Like, even if I wasn't doing great, but like, trust me, I do a really good job. But even if I wasn't doing great, I could totally take that if you just be like, okay, this isn't working, let's try something else. But guys, she wasn't saying anything. I literally was like, are you okay? Are you asleep? Are you alive up there? And she just was like, yeah, I'm good. And I'm like, okay. Like, it wasn't even like like a hum, or like, you know, my girl listeners will get it. That sound we make, we're just kind of like something amazing is about to happen. Like, we feel good. We love what's happening. She wasn't getting anything. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I slide the Strildo in there, and I would say this bitch is built for it tough, because I know when anything slides up in me ever, I have a sound. I have an initial reaction. It's usually like a ouch, or like a shock or something. Guys, she said nothing. Like, even that was done quietly. And I'm going slow because I'm like, the downside to not being a boy is I can't feel if I'm hitting a hymen. I can't feel that. So I'm going in slow, and I'm like, oh, her body and the sounds will kind of tell me, speed, tempo. Like, girl on girl sex it's a fucking science. I'm telling you, it's an art form. So it's really strategic with us. We use the sounds. We use like sonar to tell us the speed, how fast to go, how deep to go. So when I'm getting nothing, guys, I put the entire thing in there and nothing. So I'm assuming I broke the hymen, because the whole thing went in there and she still made no sounds. I'm going in and out. I'm going faster, slower, pausing, and nothing. I literally was down there probably like 15 minutes, I was so bored. I was planning my week because, like, clearly nothing stimulating is happening here. So I literally just kept saying, like, are you okay? Are you good? Do you like it? And she was like, it's cool. I was like, do you want to stop? And she was like, it's up to you. I'm like, bitch, it's your body. Like, do you want to stop? Because you're not making any sounds. So after a while, I just got bored and I stopped because I'm like, I'm bored. And the type of person I am, moaning turns me on. So if you're not making any sounds, then nothing's happening on my end. So I literally I stopped and was like, okay, like we're gonna try something else because I mean, if nothing else, your girl got to get off. So we tried the classic 6'9" position, which of course gave me the same issue I had in the beginning, which was the height difference. So while I can fit on top, great, I still can't access her in that way. So at that point, I was just like, well, considering she don't make no sounds anyway, and that's basically a corpse, I might as well finish. Like, I might as well get what I came for, because why not? I'm already here. So after I finished, they just kind of like, she just kind of watched TV and like, I smoked more, and then I went to bed because I was just like, yeah, I could have had a V8. Like, I've had more interesting sessions by myself. And I was literally like, slowly regretting that I even went to sleep. Because I was like, at that point, you really could have just took me home. And then, so like the next day we hung out. We like went and got food. We went to the movies. And we chilled for a couple hours. And then, she took me home. But when we talked about it after, I literally was telling her, like, you didn't make any sounds. You didn't say anything. Like, how'd you feel about it? And she was just like, it was cool. Like, I didn't really have no problem with it. And I was just like, yo, you didn't say anything. Like, I felt bad. I guess feeling bad was kind of what I told her, but really I felt bored. Like, all I was thinking was like, I could have had a V8. Like, that commercial just kept playing in my head. Like, I could have had a V8. So naturally, I'm telling my wife about it, and we're talking about it, and she's like, really? Like, you left out of here, and if you're going to be gone, like, I at least expect you to come back with something, like, amazing. And I'm like, yeah, right? Like, bitch, me too. So that, I would say, like, that, minus the fact that they didn't bite me, that was, like, the worst thing I've ever done in life. Like, that was the worst sexual experience I've had in my entire life. And I contemplated even doing this episode because it was like I know the person and we were really good friends. And one thing I kind of pride myself on is I try not to give you guys things. I'm not going to say about my friends, but a lot of people that I am cool with, they do listen to the show. And, most of them are flattered that I mention them, even though I don't use people's real names. Most of them are flattered. Some people even ask, like, oh, you're going to do an episode about me? But, and like, you have those other people that it could be, like, embarrassing for some people. But, I mean, one thing I tell everyone is I do have this show, and it is about, it's about sex. Sometimes my sex life, other sex life. But, if you sleep with me, you might make the podcast. Like, you might. So I contemplate in doing this episode because I didn't want them to feel like I put them on blast. But I mean, considering we're not really friends anymore, I feel like it was okay because you guys had to know. Like, I have a newfound respect for guys because when they say, like, I think guys call it like a dead fish, that's what that was. And if that is what people are like, then man, I now have to question when we slept together years ago. Like, was I really enjoying it? Or was I enjoying it because I didn't have to really do anything with, like, to her? But guys, it was awful. Um, I would probably never do. I would guarantee that I would never do that again. Not with Sybil, like anyone else, but not with her. But that's all the time I have for today. I will bring you guys more content in the future, and thanks for being a part of my amazing experience. That's it for this week's episode. And again, check me out for more. Bye.